Welcome to the Princess Power Hour, where we show you how to go from pauper to powerful by transforming your health, your wealth, and your relationships. Here's the princess of podcasting herself, Natalie Thomas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have been chatting for 33 minutes with my guest. We are having so much fun, and you didn't get to hear any of it. But we are going to be talking with Hilary Jastram, and we're talking about self-empowerment resources for chronically ill entrepreneurs. And she's told me that over 50% of the population have problems. So this is going to be a great show. She's a beautiful woman. She's got amazing energy. But before we jump in there, I'm going to tell you about my lip color of the day. I have about 6 or 8 of the 50 colors that we have that are just my total favorites. This one is called Hazelnut. I just think it is the coolest color. And Hilary, check this out, because this is what I love about this. It is kiss proof.
What?
It is smudge proof. Look at that.
I love it.
I put my color on. I put on 3 really light coats, and then I put a gloss on to seal it, and it lasts me anywhere. The minimum that it's going to last is 4 hours. It's guaranteed for 4 hours. And so if I eat something really greasy like fried chicken, something like that, it may go. Okay. I usually get 9 hours out of it, but it can go up to 18 hours.
What?
Isn't that cool?
Oh my mind is blown right now.
Okay, so everybody, this is lead-free, it is wax-free, it is GMO-free, it is not tested on animals, and you can get the beautiful colors over at www.lipstickkissesandlove.com. Check it out after the show. Pick out a color. Don't forget to get a gloss. We've got about a dozen glosses or more, and 50-ish colors. I mean, we've got blues, we've got blacks, we've got reds, corals, browns, just something for everybody. One of my podcast guests bought black. It's the only color she bought. And I thought, really? And I've tried the black, and I model all of them. I get a little uncomfortable with the blacks and the blues. It looked stunning on her. I could not believe it. She knew what she was doing. She wore it for another show that we did, and she looked fabulous. So, all right, turn it around. We're going to jump in. We're going to talk to Hilary, but let me tell you a little bit about this gal. She is so cool. Let me get back up here to her bio. Hilary is the editor to Ryan Stewman, and as I told Hilary before our show, he was on our show, oh gosh, maybe 6 weeks ago. And I've been doing the show for almost 2 years. My favorite guest ever. And I've had some really incredible people on the show. So she works with Ryan as well as other multiple successful and high producing entrepreneurs. She was also editor at the Good Men Project, blogger for the Huffington Post, and writer for the Might and Influencive, among other publications. Hilary is the founder of Sick Biz while maintaining a thriving copywriting, editing, and book editing company that has increased her network to include some of the most optimistic and motivational thinkers and the most successful coaches she has ever met. Well, that is fabulous. And you've got a book coming out too.
I do. I have a book coming out in September, but the pre-order link is up now. So it's called Sick Success, The Entrepreneur's Prescriptions for Turning Pain into Purpose and Profit. And it's a quasi-memoir of how I arrived in the place where I am today, and then a compilation of actionable chapters and tips that you can apply to your life to help you get over anxiety, to help you welcome in abundance into your life, etc.
I love that. This is so important. Tell them, everybody listening, the statistics that you were telling me before the show about sick people that are out there trying to work.
It's crazy. And, you know, this was back in 2015. So in 2015, the CDC conducted a study that found that half of Americans have a chronic illness. Half of Americans. And this is the manifestation. I mean, you think about things like Lyme disease. You know, we're talking about things like ADHD. So this includes mental health challenges or diagnoses as well as physical. But then you're looking at autoimmune diseases, lupus, multiple sclerosis, etc. I mean, and if you think about it, you probably know somebody who is living with one of these conditions.
Wow.
Mhm.
I just moved here to Kentucky not too long ago, and one of the things that we're battling in our yard is ticks.
Yes.
And I mean, we were kind of having a little family challenge of, my son got the first one, and then I got one, and then my husband got one, and then it's gone around. I think my husband has the record now. But
Oh,
honestly, that's a scary thing. Every time we get a tick now, I'm going to throw a little unplanned thing out there. I discovered something called Wondercide. It's kind of expensive, but I have sprayed my yard with it. I have to do a second spray in 10 days and then once a month after that. And I'm going to time it with when I give my dogs their flea and tick medication,
yeah.
and do it once a month. And I've already seen a difference, and it's natural. It's cedar oil.
Oh my goodness.
And it gets rid of more than ticks, and it can kind of repel snakes, which is nice. My husband he's always cutting down bushes because he's afraid of snakes. So we have about a half-acre lot here, which is different than, when you're in California. I had the largest lot in the neighborhood at 3,000 square feet.
Wow.
So in California, we build up a lot, and postage stamp yards. I didn't ask you where you were from.
Oh, I'm in Minnesota. So
okay.
I was actually born on the East Coast, and then we moved back to Minnesota, but I've been here since I was 7 years old.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we are out in we're about 20 minutes outside of Minneapolis. And my yard is surrounded by kind of woodsy areas, and then there's a big pond. So it's the same thing with our dogs too, where it's like, oh, please don't bring those in.
Yeah, I've read that you can get them in the house, and it's like,
yes.
Oh, no. And I've got chickens outside, so I'm trying to do the garden, and I'm trying to have the chickens. So the last thing you want to do is be spraying poisonous things.
Absolutely.
So we've been battling the ticks and, quite honestly, poison oak, poison ivy kind of stuff.
Oh.
And I've just figured out how to overcome that, and I'm kind of proud about that. So I was thinking about Dawn dish soap and the fact that what gets on you is an oil, and how they use Dawn to rescue the animals and everything.
Yeah.
And I found that if you wash and scrub 3 times, and I have now been exposed several times, and praise God. And the Wondercide people also, because my husband had a really bad breakout that was spreading, and it can take weeks to cure. And the Wondercide people have a skin tonic in one day, stopped the spread, and brought massive healing to my husband's breakout that was spreading.
Amazing. So we need to put a link up there so people can go there.
There we go. But we're going to have a link at the end to your websites and all of your contact information and your book. Mm-hmm. And so you started out with finding out that 50% of the American population is dealing with something. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. And then you're struggling with your own illness. How long have you been struggling?
A little over 4 years. Okay. So it was around April Fool's Day, and I like to say that was the worst April Fool's joke ever. But so I have a disease called transverse myelitis. I guarantee that nobody's heard of it. Only 1,400 people are diagnosed a year. But this is interesting because it can also present as the first stage of multiple sclerosis. So I am constantly being thrown in the MRI tube to see if I have this because I have other symptoms not associated with a lesion that I have. I have a lesion on my thoracic spine. So these statistics and at this point, there must be more than 50% because we're looking at data that's 3 years old right now. So the statistics of over 50% of people being chronically ill, I think it's really, really important information for everybody about our environment, about it's not just disease awareness, but it's what we're putting into our body.
Right.
It's that we don't have enough information about how we're living and the effects of stress. So for me, and this is interesting, I just had a hair analysis done by a naturopath.
Oh, we had somebody on the show that does that.
Did you really? So they found aluminum in my hair, which was crazy. So I was like, well, where's that coming from? And I'm thinking, no, it's probably deodorant. So for anybody who's like, well, deodorants, it's fine. It's been used for years. You know what? Everybody's body physiologically is different. How you process something and how somebody else processes it, and also what your body type is. So even how you fast, how you do a cleanse, whatever. Some people can't be without protein, for example, when they're doing a cleanse.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to take the time to understand our bodies. We have to take the time to understand our environment. So for me, I had a childhood that was horrible. It was just a horrible, dysfunctional childhood. This moved into decades. I had a ravenous eating disorder. I got down to 93 pounds. They wanted to inpatient me. I had young children at the time, and they said, well, the only way that we're not going to do that is if you agree to see us between 6 and 9 times a week. So I had to drive 25 minutes, I would see 3 specialists in one day. My appointments stretched for 5-6 hours. And they had to watch me. We did a 24-hour urine. There were muscle gases in my urine. I mean, it was just, but what it is I have chronic anxiety, panic disorder. So I'm recovering from an eating disorder. But this is all coming from a childhood and an upbringing of multiple abandonment, moving multiple times, and having no modeling as far as what a healthy relationship is, what a healthy dynamic is. And I have zero negative feeling towards anybody in my family. I just simply function better in a family of my choosing. So I wish them all well, but when you've gone through so much trauma, you don't have the tools to work with each other, and you're very hypersensitive, finding meanings where there is no meanings. Mm-hmm. So anyways, this put me into years and years and years of cortisol dumping, which we talked about a little bit off the air. Mm-hmm. That is very taxing on your body, very taxing. And so I think I pretty much broke my body. I am in a state, as it was evidenced by this hair analysis, where I don't have an alert that, if there's a major car accident or something, I don't have an alert, but instead I have an alert to everything. So if you say you're coming home from the store and you'll be home in 10 minutes, mm-hmm. but you're not home in 20 minutes, I immediately think you've died in a car accident.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's, and it's things like that you are predisposed to believe that tragedy will find you. And that's PTSD. Mm-hmm. PTSD doesn't manifest just from going to war and, being in those types of environments. It is through repeated exposure to trauma and stress on the body. And that can take many, many forms. So I think I broke my body, and it broke in 2014, but I needed to.
Tell us why.
Because for years, I had been going through the motions. This is why fake it till you make it doesn't work, people. I'm just saying. It doesn't. Because you will find out you're living as an imposter. I had been married twice before, but I hadn't been married completely in my heart, meaning I never trusted my husband. So, for example, they would say, well, I'm going to pick the kids up after school today. You don't have to worry about it. And in my head, I was already planning, how am I going to leave work to get my children? Because I did not trust that they would follow through with what they were going to do. I did not, but I thought I was because it would turn out, okay, they did show up. Well, that's great. And my sister had been married for 5 years, and she had said, I can finally believe that I'm not going to be left. I'm not going to be abandoned. And so in my first marriage, I was married for 5 years, and I thought, well, why do I not have this feeling? No. And I was still continuing to sabotage. I was still continuing to push away. So until I got sick, I would say, well, I'll let you in, but I'm just going to let you in a little bit, Mm-hmm. Until I got sick, I didn't have a choice. If my husband, who was my fiance at the time, if he didn't show up for me, I couldn't make alternate plans. I had to trust. I had to see that he would follow through and do what he said he was going to do, even if it meant I was screwed. So, and that's how we learned. And that's how our relationship deepened. I needed to break to heal.
I think of that trust because I've done it so many times. It's like closing your eyes and stepping off a diving board into what you know is an empty pool, but believing that you're going to be caught.
Yes.
You know, and for me, I'm putting my faith in God, but I have found that he shows up so many times, you know, and yes, people can just point us, but I agree with what you're talking about in your relationship. You're saying you had to trust, you had to open up, you had to show up. Because I see women sabotage their relationships. And maybe it's not this planning to pick up the kids, but it's complaining about the shoes he bought or the way he puts on the diaper, or if he doesn't do it exactly like we do it. It's wrong. Right. You know? Yeah. That is sabotage. And men will not stay with you. They don't stay in relationships where they do not feel appreciated, valued, successful. So we're going to flip this for just a minute, because I hear you saying some really important things. I'm going to definitely ask you more questions, because I want people to be thinking about the water that we're drinking. The aluminum probably is the deodorant. Okay. And I choose to use a natural deodorant. Okay.
Yeah, I will need that brand.
You know, I just read an article. I will share that with you. I just read an article that the makers of chicken feed have been knowingly putting arsenic in the chicken feed for decades. And now that it's exposed that it is actually getting into our bodies, thank you very much, they're going to take it out in the United States, but not in the other countries. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get on a roll here, everybody. I don't believe 100% in traditional American medicine. I don't believe that the FDA is our friend. Yeah. Okay. I believe much more in natural therapies, but what Hilary is saying here about us having to educate ourselves is so, so important. Okay. We're going to take a super quick.
I want to ask you a quick question. How's your health? Do you or anyone that you know have health issues like type 2 diabetes, osteoarthritis, high cholesterol, or high blood pressure? Did you know that drinking Chanson alkaline ionized water from a Chanson water ionizer is like health insurance from your tap? While it affects everybody's bodies differently, it helps some people's bodies balance itself so well that some doctors have been able to reduce or remove their patients from medications. My favorite quote is from Dr. William Kelly of the College of Metabolic Medicine, author of The Cancer Cure. He says alkaline ionized water produced by a water ionizer has become the most important advancement in healthcare since Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin. So I invite you to visit chansonwater.com, say that you heard about water ionizers on Princess Power, and ask if that $200 discount is still available.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. You know, I was mentioning about the water, and Hilary, you don't know that my main business is Chanson Water, and taking out things from your water. People think that they get the little Brita filter or the little thing that goes pure thing. That's dealing with taste. It's dealing with a little bit of chlorine. It's dealing with some odors. It's not taking out the really bad things. And I've seen one study that organically occurring arsenic in drinking water is one of the leading causes of, I believe I read it was type 2 diabetes. It's been a while since I read the study. I could have that wrong. Forgive me, guys. But it's so important for us to take control. Now, you said something really interesting here a minute ago, Hilary. You said that you didn't have any ill feelings toward the people in your past, the family. I so admire that. I honor that. That's huge, to have forgiveness. A lot of people don't. People need to hear that. They need to understand that. But I'm going to throw something out here for you and for our listeners. I watch for patterns. Okay. Unforgiveness can lead to all kinds of sicknesses and diseases. I'm working on a theory, and it's only a theory, but that autoimmune disease, and we haven't said that yours is, okay, but I know that the eating disorder has to do with control, and a lot of times that's from our dysfunctional past, okay, and girls, I can raise my hand with the dysfunctional past, and the 2 prior marriages, I'm really relating here.
Yeah.
God led me through an amazing experience, and I just want to throw it out here for your health, that you can maybe think on it later. Those of you listening, you can look at yourselves, think about it. I'd never heard a teaching on this in my life, but he led me through a thing of self-forgiveness. And he would bring up things that I had done throughout my life. And it kind of started with me asking for forgiveness, probably for the 1,000th time, for something that I had literally done 30 years ago. It's the worst thing I've ever done in my life. It's horrible. It's very shameful. But what he said to me was, I forgave you the first time you asked. You didn't forgive yourself. And that was really eye-awakening to me. Okay.
Yes.
And I went through this thing of, I had stolen a pack of, this wasn't my 30-year ago thing, guys. But when I was like 4 years old, I'd stolen a pack of gum from a liquor store. And I forgave myself for that. And I forgave myself for when I was 12 and my hair was greasy and my grandmother would only let me wash it once a week and the kids at school would make fun of me. And just went through a list of maybe silly or not silly things, but it was so healing. It was so freeing. And I literally felt things lift off of my shoulder. And about 6 months later, God led me through the same thing. So I'm just throwing out there as one tool to put in your kit if you haven't already, somehow been led to that one and unpacked that one. Is that something you've already done or thought about at all?
Oh my goodness, yes. So I've also been in counseling probably for 3 decades. I just pop back in and out when I need it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be able to participate in counseling and enter into it willingly. Forgiveness, I've almost become like the mother that I needed from myself. When I look back and I say, wow, you were very rageful, because I spent many years being very rageful, in a fury, and pushing people away.
Really?
And I hurt people and I didn't care, because I didn't believe anybody could care about me. So if you even attempted to get close to me, I didn't want that. I didn't want that. It just meant more pain. So I look back on that and I say, I take responsibility for my actions, but I also understand why I made that choice. I understand that I had limited tools, and I am not going to come down on myself about that. I'm going to say, you can acknowledge it, and then we move on from it. But we don't beat ourselves up about things. Why would you do that? If you look at a baby, and this has been a meme that's been going around on social media lately. You look at a baby who's trying to walk, and then they fall down, and you say, oh my goodness, little Ralphie, look at you. You did terribly. Never try again. No. Why would you? Little Ralphie doesn't have the tools, and you know what? Neither did you when you made poor decisions. And this doesn't serve anything at all. It is to be gentle. It is to be loving. It is to be receptive to being a human being. You're not a psychopath because you can make decisions. Our thoughts and what we tangle with mentally does not make us, it doesn't make us a bad person. We make good decisions every single day to help, to try and build compassion, to whatever good decision you're making. That's what you need to focus on. And the other thing I think of is that people are bumblers. We're all bumblers going through this life. So yesterday, my husband and I were crabby at each other. He woke up crabby. I woke up crabby, whatever. Yeah, do you want to go and do this thing? The train's leaving in 15 minutes, he said to me. And I thought, oh my God, are you just, no, I'm not responding to that. So I said, I'm not responding to that energy. And I'm just going to wake up and you can do you. And then what? And later we came back together, but we bumbled.
My husband and I had that on Saturday, and I recognized, the energy that was in me was fiercely not good. Okay. Yeah. And I realized that if I met his bad energy with mine, that it was just a dangerous combination. And I was just like, let him go sleep, let him relax, let it dissipate, shift the energy. Yes, we have to make choices sometimes. But then again, when we're younger and stupid, I don't know about you, I would have gone at somebody with that energy.
Oh, completely. We had to learn how to fight. And it's important that anybody participating in a healthy relationship has to learn how to fight. You have to learn too, especially when you're chronically ill. I had to get to the point where I was like, you know what? It's not a picnic taking care of me. Not because there's something wrong with me, because it is an added responsibility to a person who has a right to feel about that, how they are going to feel.
Yes.
And because he feels tired or whatever, how can I meet him? I'm not going to ask him after he just sits down, hey, can I have those cheese and crackers? I'm going to wait until it's convenient for him, but I'm also going to provide for him that safe place to talk to me about how he feels. And I'm going to step outside myself. So it's not personal. It's taking his emotions and his feelings in. And this is what I try to do with Sick Biz too. This is why I try to bring on people, not just myself, because the organization is for everybody. It's a community. We run it together. I don't issue an edict and say, this isn't. I need information from people. It's very presumptuous of me to think that I can say this is what you need and how to live your life based on what I don't know. So this is what we try to do, improve relationships, not just only in your business, but in your personal relationships, so that you can develop that support system that is a long-term support system, so that you can be healthy emotionally as you are contending with physical challenges.
And it's hard. When you have a physical challenge, it can involve pain.
Yes.
And when we're dealing with pain, we can be really grumpy.
Oh, yes.
No, my grandmother, praise God, is not in the workforce. She'll be 90 very soon. I'm planning to go visit for her 90th birthday, but unplanned, her caregiver is going on vacation for 4 days. And so I'm flying in from here to take care of her for 4 days, just because I love her and want to help her. But she's a grumpy person, and she can be a very demanding person, and she can, yell at people. And, sometimes you have to realize there's medications involved, and, there's narcissism involved in there too, but
sure, she
can really be aware of the fact that she cannot be the nicest person sometimes, and she'll cut extra slack because of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, thank God I can trust him to go to the bank for me, and, she's not a perfect caregiver, but at least, so it kind of goes back and forth. It's an interesting thing to watch, but when you're in the workforce and you're dealing with pain and you're still having to deal with people, and be kind, or try to be kind or respectful when you're hurting, can be hard.
It can be hard. I have found that work is a wonderful distraction. It takes me out of my reality of feeling pain. I feel a lot of burning and tingling, and like if I'm walking, all of a sudden I can't feel my leg, and so I need to sit down or whatever. When it's really bad, it's just this burning presence that settles like in my throat, and it interferes with my breathing, not from the standpoint that I can't get oxygen, but it feels like I can't, because my throat, I can no longer feel it. And so I can't tell. It's very scary. It's very scary. And you have to be forgiving of that too. When your freakouts, you have to be forgiving of that too. But I also, and I was just discussing this with a friend of mine, our pain belongs to everybody, because it is not just here to teach us. It is here for us to share so that it can help other people. I truly believe that's why we have pain. I truly believe that's why we're stricken by things like this, because we are supposed to do something with it. A lot of the times we fight that and we say, well, but this is not what I planned. I don't want to do this. This is not what I planned. And you're going to, I'm going to go kicking and screaming. But what if this is exactly what you have been asking for? And there is no other way for the illumination to occur but for you to get clonked on the head. Because for me, all my life, I was like, God, please show me the way. Please help me. Please let people love me. Please let me calm down. Please let me be less fearful. Please let me this. Please let me that. Finally, he was like, listen, I've been showing you 1,000,000 times. You haven't listened. Conk. Here you go. So we're going to feel the pain. We can choose the depth of the pain that we feel. And that's what we really try to focus on. And there's different things that we can do. Some of them are meditative. Some of them are working. A lot of it has to do with mindset and training yourself. Because I used to be the person that was, I'm unlucky. I was born under an unlucky star. I'm unlucky, unlucky, unlucky. No, I wasn't listening to my purpose. And I was fighting and fighting and fighting because my biggest thing is I didn't want to be alone. I thought that was it. You know, I just need to be with somebody so that they will love me enough, so then I will love me enough.
Love yourself first.
Absolutely. And that's not our purpose. Our purpose isn't to join up with somebody and be in partnership with them, forgetting about ourselves. Our purpose is, even if we are afraid to be alone, we're supposed to learn to love ourselves. Period.
Yes. You know, I went through 2 separations in my marriage. My first husband and I, we were ultimately married 22 years, but we started having problems about the 17-year mark. And he moved in and out 4 times in 5 years. And the first one, he was gone 11 months. I never dated in any of those separations. And he and I saw each other regularly. We were trying to work it out, but there was still a lot of alone time. And in my second marriage, we were separated the last 3.5 years of the marriage, although we worked together every day. So we saw each other every day, but on his part, there was no attempt to work it out. I still didn't date through any of that. And I got very, very good at going to the movies by myself, going to dinner by myself, going to Disneyland by myself, going to the beach by myself. And of course, it was important to cultivate friendships.
Yeah.
But being comfortable with who you are and loving yourself. For me, it's much more fun to look at a sunset and be able to point to somebody else and say, do you see that whale way out there, right there, right? You know, that is more fun. But it doesn't mean that you can't treasure that moment in your heart and create that memory in your heart. I traveled to Israel. I traveled to Taiwan. I traveled to Florida. I know I did more traveling than that, but that's what comes to mind. I know I went to one of the Mexico places on a little cruise. I'm not a fan of cruising. I didn't get off the boat. Ensenada. And I'm sure there was more than that, but being whole in who you are is so important. Let's shift though, and let's talk about some of these resources that you've put together that people can go on your website and find, and how they can connect with you and all of those wonderful things.
Well, this is the coolest thing ever. So when I started this, it was like, okay, I have this great big idea to help people. Okay, well, what does that look like? Tangibly, what does that look like? And how are people going to get value? Because anybody can throw a brand up and then they're like, well, what does this mean? Why am I here? Mm-hmm. So one of the coolest things that we've done as a group for Sick Biz is, and we have a little Facebook group. We have about 1,100 people in it, but it's very engaged because everybody is very vested in helping or supporting or getting help for themselves. And so one day we were discussing what all are the jobs that can be done at home. And this applies to the remote worker as well, not just entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So we came up with 175 jobs that you can do from your home. And I think it was really interesting. This was such a community collaboration, because if you sat there and thought about it, well, if I did anyways, I would be like, oh, okay, I've come up with maybe 4 or 5 things you can do, mm-hmm, because mm-hmm. you tend to base your responses on your experience. So to come up with 175 things and have people chiming in and saying, I heard about this, or I'm doing this, it gave people hope. It gave them something to shoot for, even something to train for, and it helped us to further develop our resources too. So the other thing that we have, and we will be getting that on the website this week, the other thing that we have is we're working in conjunction with another group, and this is, I believe she is the largest virtual assistant group on Facebook. So it's called the VA Clinic, and she runs a job board. And this is a woman who herself is chronically ill. She's now on the Sick Biz board. Hi, Galena. And she's wonderful. And so what we've done is partner with her. But she does a phenomenal job of making sure that these jobs are living wage jobs. She'll kick anybody out that says, I'm over in whatever country and I'm looking to fill this need and I only am going to pay $1 an hour. She'll be like, you got to go. You're done. So she defends the right to make sure that people can earn a living wage, because you can earn a living wage. And you know what else? You actually, like if somebody came up to me and said, hey, here's a salary job for what you used to do, I'd be like, okay, have a great time, because that's a pay cut, because you are then in control of your own earning potential. You can flip from how much do I have to make to how much can I make?
I love that.
It's amazing to share that with people and help them open up and discover their own empowerment. It's amazing.
One of the things I love teaching on this show, and of course, it's harder if you've got kids, but it's not impossible, is how to take information like Hilary is giving us and become a digital nomad where you can do this work wherever you want in the world. Okay. Now here's the cool thing. You might do it traveling, but you might also choose to find a less expensive place to live. Okay. Now, for me, my big move from California to Kentucky, I have a much less expensive place to live. I do not have to work as hard. Okay. If you're living a life in an ocean view property from Costa Rica, you don't have to work as hard. And, there's just a level of enjoyment that comes into your life when you don't have to work as hard, right? When you're not spending, 10, 12 hours a day on something. So you're saying you can increase your income.
Yes. You need to figure out logistically for yourself what that looks like, because you need to figure out what your success looks like and then replicate it and turn it into a process so that you can then. Well, what I do is I'm a yes person. I'm a yes person, but I'm a yes person who looks at the opportunity. So if it is something where it's just not really in alignment with what I do, for example, I don't do graphic design anymore. So when I first started, I was like, I'll do anything. My marketing strategy was groveling, and I sent out 250 emails to people. That because somebody said, 250 people, send out those emails. I didn't care who it was. I was like, hey, I worked with you 12 years ago. Looking good. What you got for me? And and it was placement companies, and it was multiple placement companies, multiple. So it'd be like, hey, this is, creative, whatever. And we've got a work from home position. This one over here is working for a work from home position. And then you've got all of the people that you worked with. Combine that with a lower market price, now not poverty, but lower, and then over deliver and do it over and over and over and over and over again. That's your marketing strategy right there. You can do trial closes, whatever the case is. Okay, great. We just want to get started. We'll hammer out the details later. Let's just roll with it so that people can start to understand, your integrity, and they'll continue to work with you. So that's what I did. And it has evolved. And now what I do is I examine the opportunity. Is it right? Yes. Great. And if I can't do it, then I realize my responsibility for one of my aptitudes is closing. So I can close, whip through these. And I love it. It's competitive. I love it. It's crazy. And, but I can't do all the work. So I'm fortunate enough to hand it off to people. And I have a small team of people.
I love it.
Yeah. And it fills me. It's a passive income source. If you do a referral, or even if you help to manage the project, but it fills me with a different kind of joy because I'm helping someone else.
I love that. I absolutely love it. All of my businesses, everything I do revolves around helping people. It's just my favorite thing to do in the world. And when you know that you've made a difference in somebody's life, for me, there's just so much joy in it.
Yeah, and I have to go back to Ryan Stewman because he really taught me that. So I closed the closer. So I know. So I wrote this press release for him through a different company. And then I met his wife, Amy, and Amy loved it. And then I talked to Ryan. And after doing some research on him, I was like, oh, crap, I have to talk to Ryan. I was so nervous. But then I read his book, Hardcore Closer, in one night or less. And I contacted him and said, you're amazing. You can be even more amazing. I want to edit all your books. And that's how we started. So the other thing is I want to encourage people, if you have that gut feeling that you need to reach out, but then very quickly other you swoops in and says, oh no, that's just silly. Don't listen. Listen to that gut feeling. There's a reason you are supposed to connect with those people. There's a reason for it. So fight for that and really get in touch with that gut feeling. And if you don't know what your gut feeling is, this is my favorite trick of all, and it's so silly. And it goes back to when we were kids and we did heads and tails on things. So let's say I'm deciding if I wanted, back in the day, if I wanted to take this job or this job, okay? So I'm going to flip a coin, but I'm not going to flip a coin to decide. I'm going to flip a coin to gauge what I really want. Because if I know that heads, I'm getting this job, tails, I'm getting this job. Oh, but then I get tails and I go, oh, shoot, I really wanted heads. Oh, there you go. That's how you get in touch with your gut feeling.
Oh, I love that. That's really valuable. Wow.
We don't trust ourselves, especially, and I think I speak mostly for women who come from dysfunctional backgrounds, because there is such a unique situation about being a woman. There's all sorts of power plays that come into play. There's societal influences. There's just the very fact that women are the receivers and the nurturers. And that's how our society has put us. They've positioned us in this way. So I think we feel smaller than we need to be. And sometimes we can start to doubt that we can even make decisions for ourselves.
Yes.
And then we don't know how to fix that. And so if you do the quarter trick, or if you even have a penny in your purse,
wow,
it helps you to get in touch with that very visceral, instinctive emotion and urge of what you truly want.
Wow. That is so important. That's powerful. Well, let's go ahead and tell everybody again where your website is, where your social media is, how they can get on that Facebook group, and everybody, her main business, she doesn't make anything from this what was it, Sick website? I don't want to say it wrong. Sick Biz. Okay.
Yeah.
Her main business is editing. So if you think you've got a book in you, but you can't quite get it out, or you've gotten it out, but you know it's a mess, like I can write, but I have something called agraphia. It's like dyslexia with spelling. And so I always need an editor. So we've got one right here. So she's awesome. So how do we get a hold of you if we want a book, or we want to get over to Sick Biz?
Well, and so this is really special. So I've edited probably about 40 books at this time. I've just helped this woman who became my grandma. She's 88 years old. I call her Grammy now. She adopted me, and I helped her with her first novel. And now I will be starting to help a 90-year-old woman write her book. And edit her book. So it's just amazing. So if you would like to speak to me about editing services, copywriting, editing, or book editing services, those are the 3 services I offer. Anything else I outsource. You can reach me at jhill, which is 2 L's, HILL mark.com.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, have you ever considered doing any ghostwriting?
Oh, I do ghostwriting too. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. My grandmother calls me up at night. She's losing her eyesight and her hearing, and she's invented this fabulous story, and she tells me all about it, and it's really cute, and it's different things combined from her life, and it really, revolves around animals, and she's taken my animals, and it's just really fun story, but she wants me to write it. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm kind of busy.
There is an art to storytelling. There really is, and leveraging those stories to evoke emotions. And I wrote a novel too, so it took me 8 years to write it. And this was like getting the demon out. So this novel is about a serial killer's wife.
Really?
And he's trying desperately to love him, even though he's just like this transparent,
Sociopath.
Yep, exactly. It's called Killing Carl, 2Ks. It's on Amazon. So I did write a novel, and now I don't talk about things like that anymore because I exercised that demon, Natalie. I seriously just
I'm laughing because I actually wrote a book, and we're, oh my gosh, it was 20 years ago. And mine is actually, you're going to laugh. Okay, this is true. It really is on how to exorcise demons.
What?
I'm serious. Yeah, I studied deliverance for 5 years, and the original title was, nobody knew what it meant. It was now I can't even think of it. The Believer's Guide to Deliverance for Children, Foster, Adoptive, or Birth Parents, How to Remove the Foothold of the Enemy. Okay. And again, nobody knew what it meant. You can find used copies of it. Last time I checked, it was on Amazon for like $300. And those were probably copies that I gave away for free. It's retitled. It's called The Desperate Parent's Handbook now. And digital copies are available. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I met my second husband at an exorcism event.
Oh, my heavenly days.
Yeah,
oh my goodness gracious.
Very few people I bet can say they met their husband at something like that, and I should have left him there because it turned into a nightmare of a relationship, but you try, right?
That's amazing. Oh my god. Hindsight, it's always 2020, isn't it? So,
it is indeed.
Man.
It
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned some of your abandonment issues and things like that. And I was a foster parent for many years and found that, foster children, adoptive children struggle with a lot of those issues. And there are things that come along, I call them hitchhikers, that come along from their background and whatnot. And I was trying to help one particular child who had some very severe problems. And spent a lot of time studying that. And it's just interesting, our life paths that we get on.
It's just amazing. And abandonment, so this was a healing thing for me. So anybody who's listening who's dealing with abandonment, what was incredibly healing for me was to not think of it as abandonment, but to think of it as the tools that you and this person have, whoever it happens to be, you don't have the right tools right now to deal with things. Abandonment doesn't always, and I think usually, have anything to do with the person being abandoned. I think it actually has to do, right, with the fear that is too much for the other person to even surmount, and so they leave.
No, I agree.
They're protecting, right?
Well, and it's not even sometimes people leaving us. I was in my 30s before I realized that there is an ebb and flow in life. And let's say your neighbor moves away, or you're a child and it's your neighbor takes your best friend when they move away. That is lost to us. But I, as a child, was receiving that as abandonment and thinking yes. And so it's just a different thing. When I could embrace that it was a normal part of life for people to come in and go out of my life, it was just a much
that's beautiful. Yeah. I like that. And and we give so much weight to relatives in particular and say, but this is my relative and they're supposed to be there. And you know what? In this universal family, that's absolutely not true. Some people do have families that originate from blood, but there's a big universal family out there. And there's no reason to give any more weight to a blood person who is toxic for you
Yes. I
Then,
like you adopting this grandmother. That was
oh,
powerful. Or her adopting
oh,
you and you receiving her, you know?
I'm telling you, and all I had to do, and this is the hardest thing for us to do, especially as women of dysfunction, people of dysfunction, all I had to do was let her love me and love her back. Those were our only two jobs.
Wow.
And believe I was lovable. So when she said it, I love you, you're my grandchild, I'm adopting you,
Almost want to cry.
I did cry multiple times.
Wow.
Multiple
You know,
times.
one of my goals, and I mean really vulnerable to my listeners here to say this because I'm going to fail and probably fail miserably once or twice or more often than that. I want to be love to this world. I want to be light to this world. I wake up and I think, how can I be love today? How can I show love? So, you know, for the next human being that comes into my life, and I don't do that perfectly, I ask for forgiveness in advance, because when you say something like that, you know, everybody's going to be out there just looking for when you mess up. But that's my heart, Hilary. That's who I want to be. That's how I want to be. And sometimes I read social media and I read the ugly things that can be written there on Twitter or something like that. It hurts my heart so bad to see how much hatred is out there, how much judgment is out there. And I've judged, you know, and I'll continue to judge sometimes. I try to do it less. But yeah, I think if we can do that, and I feel that in you, and that's why I felt safe talking about it in front of you. And, you know, guys, you can hold me to it. It's my heart. And if I fail, I'm sorry. But if we can bring that to this world, I think the world needs it, don't you?
Oh, the world just needs love so much. And I don't think we understand our dynamic to the rest of the planet. So we look for reciprocal. You know, if I give you money, you give me a good or a service, right? But sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it's about I help somebody, and because I help somebody I don't even know is going to come into my life and help me. You know, and so we go, well, I don't really want to help that person because what's in it for me from that person?
Yes.
But that might not even be what the dynamic is. There may be somebody else that comes in to fill that gap. And in fact, there always is. Anytime I've come at this life with scarcity, like, oh, I'm afraid I don't want to share this work. I'm afraid so-and-so is better than me. I'm afraid. I am rewarded with more scarcity.
Ooh, yeah.
When I come at it with, wow, you know what? Maybe I discovered this opportunity, but it's better for somebody else because it's for them. Then inevitably something is given to me that's for me. And so
and you're talking about reframing there.
Yes.
And we've been raised to think that we can only look at things one way. And as I have matured to realize that I can change the meaning and choose the meaning of my choosing.
Yes.
You know, that's so
goodness.
powerful when we can do that.
It is. It's powerful. It's mind-blowing. A lot of people are scared to go there because we have been taught for so long, it has become a value. When something is a value, it is intensely uncomfortable to say, well, but what does that mean? Does that mean I was gullible? Does that mean I'm wrong about other things? If we can just compartmentalize it and say, you know what, maybe I just need to be open. I'm just going to be open. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to be open to a different truth and see how that works out.
I love that.
And the expectations too. I think it's super important to almost have zero expectations. We're exploring and we're going to be delighted, but we're not going to feel like we need to control the outcome. We're going to receive the outcome, and we're going to receive gifts that we won't even anticipate. And this is why, like, around Christmas time, people will be like, well, what do you want for Christmas? I don't care. You know what I want for Christmas? I want you to think of me. And then if you give me an acorn or something like that and tell me a story about why I resonated, and that is so much more meaningful to me than anything you could buy. It's people are sharing how they feel about you. That's priceless.
It is. It absolutely is. I agree with you completely. Yeah. We do have to let go of expectations. And when I first met my husband, now I didn't know the side of his background. I just began to notice through our dating process, there were no birthday gifts. There were no Christmas gifts. There were, he'd bring me roses once in a while. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he had never received a birthday gift in his life. He had never received a Christmas gift in his life. He had never had a toy, a bike, skates, a skateboard, a place, nothing ever in his life. Okay. We celebrated, I don't know, maybe let's say it was his 43rd birthday together. I'm not sure off the top of my head. It was 40 something. It was the first time in his life he had ever had anything done for his birthday, ever.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. People cannot give you what they don't have. Okay.
Yes.
But we have that expectation. So I have this amazing man who will do anything for me. But if I had made it about that, and the other thing he does is he does not compliment me. Okay. Almost ever. Am I told, the dress is pretty or the, whatever. And I'm used to that. If I have to have that from him, I had to make a decision that I accept that I'm not going to get that from him. I love him the way he is. And although I would enjoy having that from him, if I made it about that, I would have missed out on the beauty of the relationship that we have, which is almost perfect. It is not perfect, but it is almost perfect.
And I love that. I love that so much because, so my husband is learning how to apologize. And he did not know that for however long. And the strides he has made. But the thing is, if that was intrinsically important to you and a deal breaker, and there are so many women in particular who say, well, it's not my job to tell him how to treat me or whatever. Yes, it absolutely is.
They're not mind readers, ladies.
No, they're not. And you know what? And we do this terrible game where we say, if he can't read my mind, if he can't respond in this way, if he can't do this, he gets demerit.
Yep.
No, he doesn't.
Yep.
No, he doesn't, because that is completely unfair. You are setting him up to fail. So then later you can validate the reason that you push him away because you don't want to do the internal work.
Yep. I so agree. He and I have a joke over the trash. I am vehemently opposed. I have it in my head. Women do not take out the trash. Now, when I was single, of course, I took out the trash, right?
Right.
Nicer when my son was around to do it. But if I had to take out the trash, I'm going to take out the trash. I don't like to take out the trash. I can do all kinds of things. Okay. I can pick up chicken poop. I can do all kinds of things. I can snake a toilet. If I have to snake a toilet, I don't want to take out the trash. And in the beginning, I had this hinting thing going on where I'm kind of moving the trash can. And he's not getting it. I pick it up and put it in the middle of the floor. It's going on 3 days. And finally, I had this epiphany where this particular day, everything I'd asked him to do, he did. But not the trash. I mean, doesn't he see the trash? It's right there. Okay. And so I'm like, oh, I'm expecting him to read my mind. I haven't asked him. I'm going to ask him. And he said, oh, that's why it was moving. That's why. He said, I never would have figured that out. And so now, I'll play and I'll say, I'm going to have to talk to that trash, or he'll say, you should talk to it, or you should move it. Or, And he said to me yesterday, I don't understand why you keep putting trash in there when you see it's full. And I literally had my hairbrush right then. I took the hair out and I said, I took it out. I threw it on the floor. I said, what am I supposed to do? I threw it on the floor. He goes, no, take out the trash. And I'm like, I'm not figured out. I am not going to take out the trash.
We all have those rules in marriage, though, don't we? Like, I'm just never, ever going to do this thing. This is your thing. I'm never going to do it. But it's so important to just say the words. And it doesn't make you less of a powerful woman or less of a sexy woman or less of a desirable woman because you have a man who can't stop thinking about you and trying to read your mind. It makes you a communicator and a participator in your relationship. Yes. And you know what else it tells him? I'm confident enough to tell you what I want. Yes, this means in bed too, by the way. I'm confident enough to tell you what I want because I care about our relationship and our experience together. And when we argued, oh my gosh, we were horrible arguers. One-upping each other all the time, interrupting each other, screaming. I would throw things sometimes. It was terrible. He would walk out. I don't blame him. I was a Tasmanian devil. Ridiculous. So we had to start at square one. We had to take whatever was available and have it be the talking stick. One time it was a bottle of 409 that was sitting on the counter. It was like, do you have the 409 bottle? No, you don't. So you have to wait. But I assure you, I am so excited to hear your side of the story when you're holding the 409 bottle. Yes. And so you have to go back to those things because you know what? Sometimes as adults, we forget. We get into habits and we think that people know what we're thinking, or we think that they're assuming something. Another thing we talk about is ascribing intent. So that means if I'm engaging in a confrontation, which is difficult for me and I'm still working on it, I'm already setting up what's going to happen. This is going to happen. This person is going to scream at me. They're going to disappear from my life. They're going to hate me forever because I am worthless and I am this and that. And that is the rutted road that you teach yourself over and over and over and over again. So you have to mindfully enter into it and say, I am not going to assume this person feels any certain way about me. I'm going to wait to hear it. Even if my heart is hammering, even if I'm sweating through my aluminum deodorant, I am going to wait to hear it. And we have to do the same for them. You're in a safe place. I'm going to hear you, and I'm not going to tell you how you feel. I'm going to wait.
Yes.
And when you can do that, it's really empowering because it means that you've moved past panic from wanting to control things, and you're normalizing confrontation, which happens, conflict, which happens.
Come out of dysfunctional childhoods like you and I did.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a tendency to want to control things so that we can feel safe.
Yes.
So it is important to be aware of that. I have to ask your forgiveness because this is amazing and I can talk all day. But I know. In another appointment 6 minutes ago.
Oh,
yes. So everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you, Hilary. This obviously it's been amazing, or we wouldn't just keep going. Yes, thank you so much. God bless you. And thank you, listeners. Please like, share, and comment. That helps us in the search engines. If you need book editing or any kind of copywriting, or if you want to find out how to be a sick worker in a healthy way, reach out to Hilary. We're going to have all of her contact information on our website at www.princesspower.com. God bless you, everybody. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Hilary.
Thanks so much for listening to the Princess Power Hour with Natalie Thomas. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit princesspower.com or on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter at @PPPrincessPower. Until next time, work smarter, not harder. Have a question for your host of Princess Power Hour, Natalie Thomas? Contact us at www.princesspower.com or tweet us at @PPPrincessPower.